I see like a countdown. Stop that, mute that. Alright, yeah, we're live on YouTube, and that's really the one that matters. Do you see it on Twitch, Assassin?
I had to refresh.
I'm gonna assume it is live, so. Alright, let me mute this. Out of here. Alright. Here we go.
Welcome to the Four Guys with Quarters show. With your hosts Inferno, Assassin, and Clowns.
All right, everyone. Welcome to this special Sunday edition of the Four Guys with Quarters podcast. Not an official episode, but nonetheless, we have a very special guest with us this evening or afternoon, depending on where you are. Maybe morning, depending on when you're watching this. We have Jay Bartlett, who was the star of an awesome documentary that you guys should check out, whether you rent it, buy it, or you can watch it on some streaming services like I did, Amazon Video. The star of a documentary, Nintendo Quest, in which he attempted to get every NTSC North American NES copy game, official Nintendo release, in 30 days. So this is the man, the myth, the legend right here. What's up, Jay?
Guys, hello. Thank you very much for having me. It's going to be a lot of fun. I can't wait.
Oh, yeah. It's going to be really exciting because we've got newbies like this guy I'm about to introduce, ZPCI Assassin, a regular member of the show that does not know anything from the NES era, practically.
Yep, true.
That's a lie, though. You know, like the old Super Mario Brothers. You know, like Donkey Kong and Contra and those stuff. That stuff was born on the NES, bro.
And pro wrestling?
Pro wrestling. Dude, NES hockey was the best. No hockey game even comes close.
No, I agree. Blades of Steel was a close second, but yeah, ice hockey was the best.
Where it's at, absolutely. And on the other side of the spectrum, we have an avid retro game player and collector and himself, Italian Clowns. What's up?
Hey, what's going on, everybody?
And I'm obviously Inferno 217. And we are excited to do this special interview. It's not going to go as long as one of our regular shows, but it will be full of content nonetheless, and you'll probably get some good insider collecting information if you're a fan of that kind of thing, which you should be. We shouldn't let old retro stuff die. It should live forever. But anyway, so yeah, Jay, tell us like how you kind of got into doing this. Like what... I understand from watching the film that it was like a dare from your friend Rob, and but how like did you actually think, okay, I am gonna actually do this? This isn't the craziest thing I've ever thought of.
Well, Rob, as you guys know, is a filmmaker, and he's one of my dearest friends. He called me one day actually, and he's just like, I want to do a documentary on collecting. What are your thoughts? And we wanted to do maybe like something on action figures or blah, blah, blah. And then I came up with the idea of, when I go on my rounds looking for retro games and stuff, you could film that. And he's like, yeah, but that's been done a million times.
Mm-hmm.
So we kind of just let it sit for a while. And he called me a couple days later and he came up with this almost game show kind of spin on things where we would do it in 30 days. And we would do it the way that we used to as kids, meaning we'd get up off the couch, not in front of our computer screens, and actually go out and look for these old games. Because for us, half the fun of hunting for games when we were younger and going out to buy new games was the adventure that happened on the way to the store.
Mm-hmm.
The crazy stuff that happened. So we wanted to do it old school. So there was no internet.
So you say in the documentary, not to interrupt, but you say in the documentary, just for people who haven't seen it quite yet, no internet help, so no eBay, obviously, like you just said, but also no, like, internet leads either? Or were there internet leads on where to find this kind of stuff?
No, we had a friend of ours, Will, who was kind of like, he mapped out the journey. He called the stores ahead of time just to make sure they're still in business. blah blah blah, and then we kind of planned our route. And as we started shooting, we got a bunch of Facebook messages from a lot of collectors. Now we say no internet, as in no internet purchases.
Oh,
But
okay.
obviously, people contacted us online and said, "Hey, man, I got a collection you guys should check out. Are you in the blah 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 area?" So we met a lot of collectors that way too.
Is that how you got in touch with like Todd Curtis, for instance?
Yeah, absolutely.
So-
Yeah, he reached out to us. We put it out, and really quickly, as we started to journey into the States there, because we're, in Canada, that as soon as we put it out there, people were like contacting us left, right, and center.
Right.
They're really interested in being involved with the film in one way or another. So that was really cool.
Right. So your director, Rob, director, writer, editor, producer, jack of all trades, one of your better friends. You had a lot of friends that, were along with you in this journey throughout this movie, documentary. But Rob was there, by your side the whole time. So tell us, how awesome that was to have a friend like that to put on this kind of documentary, get you guys in the scene and be there, through all the anxiety, all the craziness, getting down to the wire, that kind of stuff.
It was cool. But again, Rob is very professional. So we had a professional relationship where we had to really separate the friendship.
Mm-hmm.
So when it was time to roll, when it was time to shoot, all the decisions were made by me. So, you go into a store, I don't know, you see Super Mario 3 for $20. Do I get it now or do I wait a few days down and hope to see it cheaper? That kind of thing. All those decisions were made by me. It was really good. He was really supportive, but yeah, it was both like it was incredibly stressful for both of us. I'll just put it to you that way.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the first time we worked together where we really had to truly separate the friendship from the business.
Yeah, there was a part in the documentary where it kind of got tense between you guys because you had I remember like a negotiation went sour, and then you put like all the rest of the games you were going to even negotiate back because you were like, screw this, I'm not going to deal with somebody who won't even come to the negotiating table at all. And then you were out in the parking lot, and Rob was like, "Well, you might want to change that approach if you're thinking of even getting close to the 670. What was it? 672?
678.
678. Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
and it's funny because after when the film was finally cut and done, he said, "Jay, you don't know how hard it was for me to bite my tongue because I wanted to tell you I don't think you should do this. I think you should do this," but he didn't because the focus was on me. So yeah, he's very professional.
Clowns or Assassin, any questions? I feel like I've been asking away here.
Going through all this, man, like how exciting was it for you? Like just to get out there and go into these stores and meet these people in general.
Oh, yeah, that's a long answer. It was very exciting. Obviously, the game hunting was. If you're a child of the '80s, I don't know if you guys remember the Toys R Us shopping spree.
Oh
Absolutely.
yes.
It was my own cash, so don't let me put my foot in my mouth. But it reminded me a lot of that, where I saved and saved and saved, and all of a sudden I had this chunk of money, where every penny was going to be used on buying NES games. Like it was cool. At the same time, it's the most stress I've ever been under in my entire life. So it was bittersweet.
Now, you made reference that it was on your own money, and I don't remember ever, other than a little gauge in the bottom left that was pretty persistent, I don't remember there ever being any disclosure on how much money you actually spent. Is that something you can answer, or is that something that's kept private?
That's something I choose not to answer.
Okay.
And the other question we kind of get hammered with is that we didn't put the price of the games in there. And let me tell you guys, it's very, very simple. The movie was shot in 2013.
Mm-hmm.
The value of an NES cart, a rare one like Little Samson, is very different now than it was in 2013.
Really?
So, oh, absolutely. So if we disclose the prices, some have gone up, some have gone down. Everything would be completely out of whack right now. So people who would watch this now, 3 years later, would see the Little Samson cart and be like, wait a second, that game's only worth X amount of dollars. And this guy paid this much for it?
Yeah.
So by putting the prices on each of the games, that really would have dated the film.
Sure.
And we really wanted to give it kind of that timeless feel. So
It
that's
is-
why they're not in there. That's the only reason they're not in there.
Right. It is really a timeless activity because, Not that I was a huge collector, because I was more of a collector when I was a kid, and I prided myself on my 160 something game collection when I was like 10 years old, because when you're young, I think that's kind of a big deal. But I mean, you see this all over the place, like the eBay stuff. I know you avoided that route, and I agree with you on that. But the eBay stuff is not letting up at all. I feel like collecting games is still staying really really strong, and even though there's only a certain amount of these rare games out there, it's still like you still see auctions all over the place, and it's nuts. It's nuts.
Yeah, and what's really disturbing now is the amount of counterfeit carts that are going around. Rob and I didn't run into a lot of that back in 2013, but now it's crazy. Like, it's only been 3 years, but had we shot it this year, I can't imagine. It would be a very different game than it was back then. There's so many counterfeit carts. It's crazy.
That's nuts.
When you went out collecting these games, did you purchase like those unofficial blue ones too, as well?
I didn't have to for the specific challenge. So to be clear, it was 678 licensed retail NTSC carts, meaning North American, meaning ones that you could go into a store and buy at one point. So the unofficial ones weren't on the list. I did pick up a couple because the collector in me, I can't pass this up. I got Bible Buffet, I remember, which is a really
that one. Yep.
Yeah, it's terrible, right? But it was one that, I hadn't run across. So I'm like, it's only $50. I might as well grab that. Well, we're in, Chicago or wherever we were at the time.
My favorite blue card is Master Who and the whatever it is, Master. Oh, I can't remember the name, but I had it as a kid. And Drunkard Who or something like that. I'm going to look it up.
There's a lot of the Color Dreams titles that are just really crazy, and the stickers are so cheap, it looks like they were photocopied, and they're always like peeling off. And
right. Yeah, Master Chew and the Drunkard Who. I remember that game so distinctly.
There you go.
1989.
Quality title.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, wasn't James Pond initially a blue card as well?
James Pond, to my recognition, or my recollection, sorry, was a Sega Genesis game.
Okay.
I don't believe that was on the NES.
So I might have had like a bootleg one growing up, but somebody just like
Yep.
ROM hacked it into the card somehow or something.
It's quite possible, and I could be totally wrong, but my first memory of James Pond was on the Genesis for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Assassin, any questions? Nope, your microphone is unplugged or muted. Again. This happens with this kid all the time. Go ahead.
You hear me?
Yeah, there you go. Go ahead.
Out of all those games you collected, which one was the hardest one to find?
Oh, see, he didn't watch the documentary, but
Yeah, I didn't watch.
fill people in. I got the top 20.
He did, so
Yeah.
this is a show about Nintendo Quest, and one of the hosts didn't watch the source material. That's great, man. I'm just playing with you. I don't know if I want to say that if you hadn't watched it. I don't know. That's a pretty big spoiler. I will say that some of the games that you would think were easy to find were not so easy to find. I'll give you that.
What about one game that I had as a kid that I was surprised was rare when I watched the show was Bubble Bobble 2. Like, I had that as a kid, and I distinctly I know I have it still. I know exactly where it is, and I did not know that was rare.
There was a bunch of games made by a Japanese company called Taito. They're fantastic. They got released 92, 93, and that's obviously the Super Nintendo was out in 91. So this was 2 years after the Super was out. And in North America especially, when a new piece of technology comes out, nobody wants the old stuff. So these games got released for the NES, and they didn't sell well. It didn't mean they weren't good. Like Little Samson is a game by Taito. It's one of the rarest, and it's one of the most fantastic video games out there. But not a lot of people bought it, right? Because everyone was playing Super Nintendo, Genesis. They wanted the better graphics, etc., etc.
Sure.
Bubble Bobble, yeah, that's number 2 is extremely rare and high priced. Yeah.
Might have to sell that then.
Do your research, man.
Yeah, no, I will.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to get that app that you had on your.
Well, what are you asking for it? I'm just kidding.
Nice.
There's one thing I want to ask you, because for other people out there that might, think about collecting, how can they tell a fake cartridge compared to a real one?
You have to open the board up. again, you need the special screwdriver. You got to open it up, take all the pics. Again, this is why stuff like eBay is so difficult now, because the counterfeit cards, even if they open the board up and you see that everything is where it should be, you don't know if that's a doctored photo, etc. So it's a very different game than it was back then.
So I am gonna because you did just talk about the counterfeit thing, and I am gonna kind of spoil a little bit of the movie here.
Your show, mate. Go for it.
So you had an encounter in the show with a guy that was a little bit on the shady side, in my opinion. Josh Jones, who was from the lovely state of Florida, right, clowns?
Yes. It's warm here, by the way.
That's where you're from, clowns? That's where you are right now?
Yeah, that's where I'm at.
Awesome. I love Florida. I've been to Daytona, man. I love Daytona.
Oh, my uncle's got a pizza place in Daytona.
There you go.
There you go. Very nice.
So Josh Jones, I won't say the name of the game, but if you know NES cards, you probably know the name of the game that is rare and costs a lot of money. And this guy was willing to sell it for a measly $4,000, a little bit more than that. And then, you had a little bit of worry that it may have been a fake, and then the exchange of money, he wasn't satisfied with it. You weren't either, because he wanted the money first, and you wanted the card first to see if it was not a fake and stuff. So you would have to actually open up the cart to see if it was not a fake, and then wouldn't the value go down at that point, or no?
No, the screws just come out. You're not breaking any kind of seal. You can do it in such a way that the sticker won't peel off. No,
okay.
It's fine. No, Josh, I will say, is honestly, he's not a shady guy. So I don't want that to get out there. He's not. Josh wanted to be involved with the film. Do you guys know who Todd Rogers is? You better.
Yes. Absolutely.
Oh yes. After watching the documentary. Oh yeah.
So Todd Rogers was the very
first professional
gamer. Yeah.
Yeah.
And now a good buddy of ours, which is amazing. And so Josh knows Todd. We were flying Todd down to Texas to meet us. Josh was going to give him the cart, the cart, and that's how he was going to present it to me. And as time went on, Josh wanted to be more and more involved with the film, which is understandable. This was the biggest game in the film. He wanted his face on camera, and I totally get it. He wanted us to fly down to Florida in a crew of 7. We just couldn't afford to do that.
Of course.
Right? And it's a road trip movie on top of that. So,
yeah, you'd already planned out driving everywhere. You're not gonna, yeah.
So we were, and then it just went on, and he's like, okay, how about you just send me, the 3,500, and then I'll send you the cart. And I'm like, okay, this is just getting weird. And then Josh proceeds to tell me that he's purchased 3. It's stadium events. I mean, it's no secret.
Right.
He purchased 3 stadium events, and he only ever received 1. So 2 of them that he got were fake.
We're fakes.
And then in the movie, you could see it on my face.
Yeah, that kind of raises the
I'm
alarm.
just like,
okay,
okay, dude, like, well, you know what I'm going through, so I'm not going to send you the money. There's no legal contract here, right? So I'm not going to do that. And the deal was off.
Right.
But he's not a shady dude, man. It was just, I get where he was coming from. He just wanted to be involved with the film, so.
Right.
Yeah, and I think at that point too, like, you were feeling kind of the pressure of like trying to get your collection up, and using budget with your money and stuff. So I get that you were kind of like at that pressure point, trying to budget.
And I don't know the misconception of what people think. I am by no means rich, and 3,500 was a big chunk of what I had.
Of course.
And so to run into an offer for stadium events so early in the trip, I think it was around. Oh, Rob's going to kill me here. I think it was around day 8 or 9.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Day 8.
Oh, there you go. Yep. Okay. Was just a shock to all of us, and it just happened, and that's why the call was at like 12 at night, because it was just something that Todd Rogers had brought to us. He's like, hey, you should call my buddy Josh. He has this. We're like, what? So what you see there was just like, us filming like late night.
Right. No, I mean, a lead on a game of that rarity, and I mean, it's even for people who don't collect, it's kind of like a known thing out there. You see the articles on like Kotaku or Engadget and stuff about like, ooh, stadium events, full box mint copy just sold on eBay for like $78,000 or some shit. Like, it makes news. So Like that is like the game to collect if you're a collector, and you just happen to run into a guy later in the movie that had 2, which is absurd. In Todd
That's
Curtis.
awesome. That is awesome.
But
So real quick, without getting into a big history lesson, the reason why this game is so rare, it was released by a Japanese company called Bandai on the eastern side of the U.S. In a department store called Woolworths. If you guys even remember,
I remember
what that
Woolworths.
is.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
It was only released to Woolworths. 2,000 copies were shipped, and then almost instantly they were recalled by Nintendo themselves because they wanted to repackage it and put it out as their own with their Power Pad. A game called World Class Track Meet, which you can get for 5 cents anywhere. You know, but it's reported that around 200 of these sold. The rest were recalled and supposedly destroyed. So even if they were all sold, there's still only 2,000, but there's about 200 kicking around. That's it.
Sure.
Yeah.
How do you resist the temptation to open that box up? You know what I mean? Is that box sealed or no? That box is not sealed, is it?
No.
Okay, he didn't reseal it. See, I would want to. This is the problem with me in collecting. Like, I want to touch the stuff. I want to fully examine everything. Like the manuals, especially, those days are gone with the NES manuals. Like I want to flip through those, go down memory lane. But I feel like every time you touch it, it loses value.
This was a segment. It's like comic books, right? You almost want to put gloves on.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah, yep.
It was a segment that Rob and I wanted to do in the film, actually, about how the instruction book of the NES told a lot of the backstory. If you look at something, it's just amazing as the first Legend of Zelda. If you open up that instruction book, there's a whole backstory of Hyrule and Link and everything that happened in this guy's world that's not in the game simply because they didn't have the technology to do that.
Right, right.
So there's something magical about going back to those and, so you have the game, you have the wonderful box art, and then you have this great backstory. I mean, that's, you pick up Call of Duty today on the Xbox One. You're lucky if you even get a picture on the back of the box now.
Yeah.
It's just
so
crazy.
true.
You open the game, there's nothing. It's just, yeah. I sound like an old guy now, but things were better back then, guys.
I agree with you, man. Like I remember opening up the Nintendo boxes, like that smell. That it had a distinct smell too when you took it out.
Yes.
And it had styrofoam at the bottom of the box and everything.
Yep.
I loved it.
Mm-hmm.
The new game smell, I always said that they should have made that into a cologne.
Yes.
Of course, it never happened, but...
And now they have like the weirdest shit for colognes, like backyard and like fresh lumber and stuff, but they can't have
lumber,
they can't have like NES. Like that would be.
They should have fresh game NES.
There you go.
There you go, guys. There you go. Shop that to like Calvin Klein. They'll do it.
I wanted to ask you, like, we know the documentaries about NES, collecting the NES cartridges. What else was considered besides Nintendo when you guys like talked about it?
Well, we're both huge Sega fans. We're fans of all games, so let me just state that. Really? I mean, can you guys think of anything more iconic than the NES that made a ripple in the industry like the NES did? If you look at the history of that console and what it did and when it came in, you can't compare it to anything. The 2600, yeah, but are there those huge history cards like there are in the NES? I don't think so.
No.
So with us coming up with a sequel, it's difficult. I'm not saying that there isn't one, but I'm just saying it's hard to replicate something that was just it had such an impact on the industry.
Sure.
It was almost unanimous. We're both like Nintendo, boom.
Right. And is that what you find by going to the local stores and stuff? Is that what you find the most of for collector's material? Like you find a lot of NES cards compared to say like PlayStation CDs and stuff like that?
No, I would say PlayStation 2.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, like mountains of it. Mountains of PS2. Yeah, 2600 cards too. A lot of those, and
really,
and they're from the the 80s. A lot of the labels are coming off the 2600 cards too because they were cheaply put together and whatnot. So
gotcha.
That's a messy system. Our good friend Mason Kramer collects 2600 cards, and I want to give a shout out to Mason. He is the Super Mario Brothers 3 world record holder. So
Nice.
hey, buddy.
Nice.
Yeah, he collects 2,600 cards, and yeah, it's messy.
Gotcha. So I meant to ask you when we had that top 20 slide up that you guys have from the film. What out of these top 20 cards? Obviously these are by rarity. But which one of these is like the best game to play? Like is the best game
in my opinion?
Yeah.
Out of the 20 rarest is Little Samson.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Little Samson. We even feature a little clip in the film because it's so damn good.
Yeah.
There's no secret. It's almost the Mega Man formula to a T. But you could switch between the 4 characters on the fly.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just something at the time that was never done before, and it plays well. The graphics are colorful. The sprites are big.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a fun game. It's just a lot of fun.
I gotta be honest with you, when I was looking these up to see which ones I would want to check out, because some of these I've never even heard of, like Color a Dinosaur. I looked that up and I'm like, why was this rare? Like this game is terrible.
I did a Twitch stream just for a goof on Color a Dinosaur, and Color Dinosaur is just like a paint program from like the early 90s basically. And it's not even colors, it's like different like checkered patterns and stuff of red.
Sure.
So you just like click on the pattern and then you click on the part of the dinosaur and it fills it in for you. So
Gotcha.
you can understand why the game's rare because it's absolutely terrible.
Right, right. One thing we kind of didn't talk about was like, the games themselves. Like you alluded to why, NES is kind of the iconic console, made the biggest ripple, in your words, in the gaming industry. But you actually have people who have worked in the gaming industry in this film on current franchises. Like you have James Portnow, who, worked on Call of Duty, game designer for Call of Duty. And even he says, if you pitch these silly games like with plumbers and mushrooms, he literally says, you pitch a game with plumber and mushrooms today, it's not going to happen. But back then, people ate it up. So these games had some sort of charm that, today's games don't have. And do you think that's what makes people want to collect them too, or?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to quote him because I'll screw it up first of all, but everything he says in the film is absolutely correct. When the NES came out, it came out in a time when nobody wanted to even speak the word video game. The industry was dead. It was killed by clones. Simple as that. And then you had this, game that played beautifully, and it was an Italian plumber who was, chomping on mushrooms and shooting fire and jumping on turtles, and it played like nothing else. But there was something so special about it. Now everything is about fourth quarter. And I don't mean to crap on a lot of companies, but one company I'm not a huge fan of anymore is Activision.
Yes, amen.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Every year it's Call of Duty, and they've destroyed Guitar Hero, they've destroyed Tony Hawk. They take these franchises and beat them into the ground. I don't know. And if you were to come to Activision and say, hey guys, I got this idea that's fresh. Nope. It'll be like, what kind of numbers can you give me?
Right.
How many units are you going to sell? And it's like, they don't care about any kind of creativity. It's just bottom line. So.
Right. Yeah, I was shocked to see James Portnow because I knew that name, but I didn't remember exactly who he was. And then, people, I mean, even you said it just now, people resonate with Call of Duty. So you have a guy that worked on Call of Duty, and he says that the older stuff is way better, and we're, screwing around here with the same old formula over and over and over again, ruining games.
Well, James was one of the originators of Call of Duty, so I'm not dragging his name through the mud. I'm just saying the way Call of Duty is now, where it's mass produced. I mean, I think, what's the stat? Infinite Warfare is like the 4th most hated trailer on YouTube or something crazy like that. Like, but it's weird to me because that's the stat, and then people will still buy it. Yep. This is what I don't understand about the gaming industry today. It's like you don't want the same game every year, and yet everyone continues to buy it, and they're like, okay, well, it's November, I have to get Call of Duty. It's just like, if you don't want it, don't buy it. Take a stand kind of thing.
One of my most happiest moments this generation for this generation of consoles is when they re-released Mega Man, like the collection. Like at the first thing I did.
Legacy, yeah.
I bought that, man. I started playing through it. I already beat like the first one, halfway through the second. And I was gonna say going back to play those, man. It's like so hard now, because you get like 3 lives, no continues. That's it.
That's what I was gonna say. It's like you sweat your ass off and you get to the boss with one life left and half a bar. It's not that way today. You play Halo, right? You're playing Halo, you die, and you start 2 steps back. There's no penalty. I think the game that comes closest to that is Dark Souls.
Mm-hmm.
Dark Souls is hard only in the way that it's very brutal. It's like the games the way they used to be. You know, it's like you die, do it again. You're going to the beginning. I miss that stuff, really.
A guy in our chat, Weckless, says the Madden effect. Yeah, I mean, sports games were really the first ones to do this kind of like yearly release and, you know, kind of set the tone for the industry. I mean, Madden was insanely popular, not when, you know, the first Madden ever came out, like on the Sega Genesis or whatever it was, like Madden 94 or whatever, but like very recently, like in the 2000s when you made the jump to the new hardware and, you know, you had X number of polygons on the screen that were way more and were more authentic. So that's when Madden got popular after they released one every year for, you know, whatever, 15 years or so. So
well, Madden became popular because Electronic Arts gave people, they took away their options. They bought the license to the NFL.
Mhm.
So it was like you had no choice. There was no more 2K.
So then
they couldn't.
Yeah,
They
exactly.
couldn't produce NFL games anymore. They couldn't use the NFL license or the Players Association. It was done. So it's like if you want NFL football, you buy John Madden football.
Well,
Right.
you know what I
That's
did
it.
on the Genesis, right? I bought Mutant League football.
Yes.
You remember that one?
I do. It's a great game. And Mutant League Hockey.
Yes.
It was basically the programming from NHL and Madden. They just put monsters in it, and they were fantastic games.
We actually got to talk to Michael Menheim, the developer of
Nice.
Mutant League. Yeah, he's an awesome dude, man.
We gotta get an update from him. We have to have him on the show again. Get an update.
That's really cool, guys. Because again, Rob and I are big fans of those games. We last year we toured the film across America, and we had our own kind of list. We had 8 games each that we were looking for, and one on Rob's list was the Mutant League Hockey, and we actually found it in Los Angeles,
Oh, nice.
which was sweet. But yeah, those are fantastic games and really underrated too.
Yeah, definitely. Assassin, what do you got?
If you were gone back and would you do this again?
If I was to go back, would I do this again?
Yes.
Yeah, like if you would tell yourself in the past to not, would you? I'm sorry, I'm writing this bad, but would you just do this again? Like,
Would I do it again?
Would you
Yeah.
go through all the craziness, all the
Right,
anxiety, all the,
Yeah.
you know, because there was a moment there in the film where it looked like, you know, it was getting down to crunch time. You had like almost 100 games left, and you weren't gonna get there.
Yeah, I mean, Assassin, to answer your question, absolutely. The film changed my life. I was a completely different person before and when I shot that compared to the guy I am now.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, absolutely, I would. Yeah.
What would you say? Now you went to when the film starts out, you kind of went to collectors first. Like you didn't want to go to retail. You have a lot of retail experience, right? You at the time managed a gaming store, right? That does
Yes.
retail of gaming stuff.
Yes.
So then you went to guys like Sid Bolton, who has the PC Museum. I've seen that a little bit online before the show, and I watched. I mean, before watching the documentary, and then I watched the documentary and I saw the collection he had, and I'm like, Jesus, like this guy could almost go to one of these things and these collectors and get the 600 and walk out of there and have it done almost day one. But you didn't do that. So
Well, Sid, first of all, he has the biggest collection of video games in Canada, which is a huge feat.
Right.
Great dude. He had tubs of doubles. Sid is known for not selling anything from his personal collection. He has tours all the time, and he has, boxed Earthbound and, Transformers and boxed for
man.
N64 and stuff like that, right? And people are always making him offers. He will never sell. He had one NES game that has just been, a guilty pleasure of mine for years. And that's Donkey Kong Jr. Math. And I pulled it off his shelf, and I practically begged the guy. That's not in the film, but
well, what is in the film is him going, I
he
never,
act-
ever,
yeah.
ever sell stuff. Yeah.
And he actually he sold it to me, and I was just completely beside myself. But yeah, the tubs of things he had, it was just mostly commons from his place. But I got a lot of stuff from him, yeah. But it was nothing out of his collection except Donkey Kong Jr. Math.
But not even specifically Sid, like collectors in general. Like, is that a common thing to have? You know, if they find a good deal on a double, they'll buy a double and then, you know, have it in their collection and sell it to people? Or is that a thing? Or do they usually only get like one copy and call it a day?
I've run into a lot of guys that do upgrades. So especially on the sticker games like Genesis, NES. The labels wear and tear like comic books.
Mm-hmm.
So they'll get, again, let's use Little Samson because that's the flavor we're talking about. So you get a Little Samson, it's got a big rip down the sticker. Well, you're going to buy it, right? Because you've never seen Little Samson before, and it's a huge discount because there's a rip. I don't know about you guys, but I would buy it.
Yep,
just to say I have Little Samson.
Right.
A few years later down the road, you find one with a better sticker. So you take your ripped Little Samson, trade it to that guy, and upgrade. So there's a lot of guys that do upgrades.
But they don't keep the original. They'll trade it.
It's tough to say.
Okay.
I mean, for me, I would probably do an upgrade unless it was one of the carts from my childhood, like the original Legend of Zelda that has my name from, you know, when I was in grade 8 kind of thing. But
Sure.
I got that too, like the gold one.
yeah, absolutely. If the battery still works, most are still working, but some are dying.
Right. So, Clowns, you want to ask something before I went on that tirade?
Yep. I was gonna ask you, what got you into collecting video games in general? Like, what happened, like, to make you start collecting, or did you already have a collection from childhood that you never let go of?
The second part, absolutely. Again, when I was growing up, you know, the new game system would come out, and everyone would want that. I remember '95, everyone, you know, they wanted PlayStation. Nobody wanted Super Nintendo and NES and all that stuff, and everyone got rid of it to get money to buy the PlayStation.
Yep.
Well, I always hung on to my stuff, and I always put it on bookshelves. And I can't tell you how many times I got made fun of. Like, why do you want these old crappy games? Like, you're never going to play them again. I'm like, well, yes, I am. Like, do you watch films from the 70s? Yeah. Because they're great movies. It doesn't matter if they don't look like films look today. You're still going to want to watch it. So it's the same kind of mentality, old books and such, right? So I always hung on to all my stuff because I knew that at some point in time I'd want to go back and play it.
Sure.
So most of my collection, save for NES, is stuff that I've had since I was a kid. That goes, you know, with my Star Wars and all that stuff.
So do you collect as much Star Wars as video games, would you say? Because I know in the film they said Star Wars, video games, rock.
Yeah.
Are your three things. So
Yeah. I'm pretty simple. That's it. That's me. Those three things. You know that, you know me. That's it. No, I collect much more Star Wars than I do games.
Oh, really?
And that's not because I don't like games anymore. It's simply because I just need to step back a little bit from that. It's been an intense 3 years, and you kind of get burned out a little bit from it. So
Sure.
I'm still collecting games. I'm just not going out as frequently. That's all.
But I gotta say though, like, in your journey, in your adventures, you've met a lot of cool people, and
Yeah.
like, has that brought you more like into like the retro scene of like meeting more and more people, even though you may have held back on collecting right now, or, you know, going slow at a slower pace?
I keep in contact with a few. I'm part of all the forums and such, but again, as of late, I haven't been participating in all that stuff. I get, you know, messages almost daily about people that are like, I found this, I found that, and excited to share that with me. And I think that's absolutely great, man. Like, keep sending the messages because I love talking about games and stuff. But yeah, I don't know.
Would you, if you were to give some advice to a new collector, would it be to go out to other collectors to get stuff, or would it be to like go to Goodwill, or where should somebody start if they want to go on not 30 days and cross 10,000 miles through 2 countries, not something like that.
Yeah.
But say they wanted to say, okay, I want to start an NES collection. Where do you think they should start?
From my experience lately, being in 2016, the Goodwill thing is pretty rare now to find stuff. I mean, there are a lot of people. There's a lot of YouTube shows. There's a lot of pickup videos that are going out all the time. So for me, going to those places, it's like a crapshoot. Whereas 10 years back, like I was saying, nobody wanted Dreamcast stuff anymore. So you could go to yard sales and find tubs of it for $5. Now everyone has price apps on their phone. Everyone has the internet at their fingertips, so everyone knows what everything's worth. Um, Honestly, I would trust your local mom and pop shop game store. That's where I had a lot of my best luck. Go in there with a positive attitude and just be kind to people. It's the people with the egos that are out of control that get shut down, and then, oh, this store is terrible. It's like, man, just go in there and just talk to them like people, and you'll be surprised what you can get.
Right. So there is room. One thing I definitely learned from this film that I definitely did not know is that even on high price rare games, there is room for negotiation. People will work with you. So
honestly, Inferno, it's all about your attitude. Rob and I are very positive, happy guys. So you just go in there and you like that. If you go in there like Mr. Businessman, and you tend to shut people down right away, but just go in there and be nice, man. Talk to them like people. They want to make money. You want their game, so
Yeah. In our chat right now, Xbot448 on YouTube chat wants to know, what is Jay obsessed with finding now that you've found all the NES games? You've completed that collection. What's your new obsession, if there is one?
I need to meet Mark Hamill. That is my. I've tweeted him a couple times. He's liked a few of my tweets, which to me is like crazy. But yeah, I got to meet Mark. Luke Skywalker is my absolute hero. I know he's not real. Just saying. Yeah, Mark's my favorite. So, somehow trying to contact him. That's my new thing.
Kind of off topic, but what did you think of the newest movie?
Oh, Force Awakens.
Yeah.
It's brilliant. Yeah, but I can accept when Star Wars is not good, but you're talking to maybe one of 3 people that actually loves the prequels.
Oh, not Phantom Menace.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, dude, yeah. Jar Jar Binks is not a bad character. Jar Jar Binks was used too much. Okay, and that's George's fault, but I still think the story of the Phantom Menace is great, and the other 2 as well. But to answer your question, The Force Awakens, I think, is incredible.
Assassin, I know you're a huge Star Wars guy. You agree? What do you think about Jay's loving of Jar Jar?
No comment.
Yeah, that's an unpopular opinion, but we love it anyway.
Speaking of Star Wars,
that's cool.
Speaking of Star Wars, Jay, have you had a chance to play like Battlefront? Any thoughts on Battlefront?
Oh, good question. Yeah,
Battlefront's it's okay. It's not Battlefront 2 from 2005. They stripped a lot out of it, unfortunately. And again, I know you guys don't like the prequels, but limiting the game to 4, 5, and 6 really bummed me out.
Oh, definitely.
Oh yeah.
When I had the option of using the battle droids and the clones in number 2, and then you take that all out. Not to mention there's no Kylo Ren, there was no Rey, there was none of that stuff. I was a little bummed, and it's very Call of Duty to me. It's like a level 50 will destroy a level 10.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. Yep.
My only other gripe, too, is that everyone's running around with their heads cut off. There's no communications. If you happen to have 30 friends, that you can coordinate a battle with, good luck. That's not going to happen.
Right.
So I prefer number 2. I'm looking forward to Battlefront 2, which they announced.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully they've read all the user feedback. So.
Well, it sounds like they have, because they've already mentioned a single player campaign. A lot of people bitched about that. So. Speaking of Battlefront, it sounds like, you're pretty knowledgeable about modern gaming as well. And usually collectors, from my experience, don't, are like, oh, modern gaming, rabble, rabble, rabble. It's all about the old stuff, rabble, rabble. So it sounds like you do modern gaming. So what kind of games do you play? Like, what modern era stuff do you enjoy?
Overwatch, I think, is brilliant.
Yes.
But in my eyes, Blizzard can do no wrong. I think they are the perfect video game company. I think they take their time. The game comes out when they're ready. They don't give dates. They don't give any of that kind of stuff. It comes out when it's ready. Overwatch is great. What else have I played? Doom, of course. I went through Doom. I thought it was great. It was a fun, kill everything that moves kind of shooter. And I think you're seeing the shooters getting back to that basic. There's not the Call of Duty. You got to grind, then your prestige, then you grind again, then your prestige. It's more like just pop in and play, which I'm a fan of.
Right.
So Overwatch, 2 thumbs up.
What platform do you play Overwatch on?
Xbox One.
All right, I'll have to add you then on Xbox. I play that very often.
For sure.
Let's see. Back to the NES stuff and back to the movie. I've got a couple more things I've got prepared here. Oh, one thing I wanted to ask you. We talked about the Goodwill thing. What do you think was your most successful state or province when it came to gaming? Like some of the in the documentary, some places were definitely a big miss, and some places seemed like they were big successes. But what area of North America, I should say, was probably the best for retro stuff?
Again, I'm gonna mix up cities and states here, so forgive me because I am Canadian. But
Nice.
Pittsburgh is a city, and Pittsburgh was great.
Mm-hmm.
Texas is a state, and Texas was great as well. So those two, yeah.
Are you judging that on the amount of stuff that you got or the quality?
But both.
Okay.
There's a lot of great deals in both. There was a chain that I'm not going to mention on the air because they don't want me to, but
sure.
I happened to go into this chain in Pittsburgh, and the district manager happened to be working there. Our producer Mike said what we're doing, and he called around to all the other stores and said, these guys are going to go around, give them a deal kind of thing. But he didn't want me to mention it in the film, which is fine because he didn't want everyone going in there thinking they could haggle and stuff like that.
Sure, of course.
That was one reason, man. They were great. Texas has the most crazy flea markets, which I got to roam with Todd Rogers, and it was hot as hell. But man, it was cool. It's just huge, like miles outside.
Mm-hmm.
Cool, yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, and flea markets around here. And I'm in Boston, Massachusetts, so flea markets around here don't really have retro stuff anymore. Like a lot of it's like Guitar Hero drums and controller and guitars and
nobody wants that stuff. It's just like old broken guitars. And
right,
stuff.
Right, exactly. And like you'll go into Goodwill and you'll happen to score like a Legend of Zelda gold card. Like that's not something that's unusual at a Goodwill. That's kind of why I asked about that because I wasn't sure if that's like how it is everywhere. Or
I'm speaking in Canada.
Okay.
We have a couple of those, and I go in. I don't go in too often anymore, to be honest. But yeah, a few years back, there's nothing because again, there's so many people that make their rounds, right?
Right.
So unless that's like your job, you're consistently doing it. Then I don't know. I didn't have any luck myself, so.
Right.
I will say here in Florida, at the flea markets, there's you either get two kinds of sellers. One that knows what they're doing and jacks the prices up, or two, like the older, people that just sell it as cheap as they can in bulk. We still get that here.
Yeah, again, I mean, I think that's rare clowns because, like I said, everyone has an iPhone attached to their hand, right? So to look up a price of something takes a few seconds, right?
Right. What else do I got for you before we get out of here? Oh, something that was interesting that was in the film, and I like how you guys diverted. It wasn't just like the whole time collecting. I like how you guys, mentioned a lot of stuff about how awesome and iconic music is back in the 8-bit era with the technically 4-channel audio, if you include the white noise. And stuff about like playing for fun versus playing for sport or for records. And now that there's, everyone wants a record. Everyone wants to get in the Guinness World Records Gamers Edition now that recently became a thing. And everyone talks about the good old days of the Nintendo World Championships. Mm-hmm. So first question, do you game in order to get records or just for fun? And second question, why the hell haven't they had a Good World Championships since 1990? I know they tried it in 2015, but where is that time gone? Like, why can't they do something like that anymore, in your opinion?
I don't game for records. No, I only game for fun. To answer the second part, gaming is different now. if you look at the way it was back then, especially with arcades, what was huge back then, Street Fighter, right? You and your friends go into an arcade, and again, I don't know if you guys remember this. Again, I'm a little older, but
Oh,
you go into
absolutely.
an arcades, and it was a hangout. It was an event. Skip a little bit further, 96, you got the N64. 97, everyone pops in GoldenEye and Mario Kart. That's it. You're at your buddy's house for a night, switching off controllers. Everyone's in the same room having a great time. What is it today? You're playing Call of Duty in your room by yourself with a headset, isolated from everyone else.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The NWC back then was representative of everything that gaming was then.
Mm-hmm.
They tried to bring it back in 2015. It's not the same industry anymore.
Yeah.
And as we get closer, we talk about this on a GamerCast, which is our podcast. We talk about it all the time. As gaming gets closer to VR and that crap, which I call it, because
Yes.
I
Amen.
absolutely
Amen.
zero interest in it. I mean, you're already taking my friends away from me in gaming, and now you want to take my reality away. I think it's crazy, man. I've tried the Oculus Rift, and it's awesome. But do I really want to play, Grand Theft Auto 6, a 70-hour game immersed in this? No. I like my world. I like reality. So, anyway, Inferno, to answer your question, I just think gaming was much different than it is now.
It certainly was, and the Nintendo World Championships was such an event. Like everyone, and there was a movie that came out just before that the name escapes me, that kind of like built up the hype for something like this.
Wasn't like The Wiz?
It was the Wizard.
The Wiz? The Wizard.
Red
yes.
Savage. Yep.
Yeah, so, and then everyone was like, ooh, the Wizard, like, this is cool, and, video games are starting to take off again a little bit, and people
That's why
wanted to
I
compete.
love the Street Fighter tournaments, and now that name of that tournament escapes me. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? The Street Fighter tournaments that are every year, where you have just huge arenas with people, cheering and just going crazy. Like, I love that stuff, man.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's what gaming needs to be about again, but it seems we're going in the opposite direction, and I don't want. I mean, I don't want to make this show like R-rated, but I don't want a virtual porn game.
I agree, man.
I'm gonna go hang out with my girlfriend. I don't want to do that in an alternate reality. I want to like hang out with my buddies and play Mario and pass the controller off, kind of thing. But,
Right.
Now,
hey, that's me, man. I don't know.
if they made a VR game though of like Star Wars, right? Like kind of like what they're trying to do with Star Trek, and you can like interact with the characters and talk to them. How would you feel about that?
It's weird. It's weird. I mean, that's like an MMO engulfing you even more. Like MMOs are already addicting as hell, right? Now you're gonna like. I don't like the idea of not hearing what's going on around me, and everywhere you look, it's that computer reality. See, that to me is like, I'm not a Star Trek fan, but that's like holodeck stuff. And you remember that episode? Everyone was getting addicted to the holodeck and that. I have no interest in that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, we've talked on the show multiple times about VR, and I'm with you. I'm with you on it. It's very isolating, and it's cool for about 30 minutes, and then you don't want to do it anymore. And so I think
can you guys?
gonna...
Have you played the Resident Evil 7 demo?
No, I didn't play it. I was at E3, and I didn't know. I spoke to a lot of people who did play it, and half the people I spoke to were gonna puke. Like, honestly, they were not too interested in it because of how nauseous it made them. But nevertheless, I mean, people thought it was cool. I mean, for a hot second, but they're not gonna play it for hours.
The demo itself, I played it just on obviously regular PS4.
Okay.
Is incredible. It's back to roots. It's almost like PT a little bit.
Yep.
But again, are we not going to run into health issues? I mean, the game's going to scare the crap out of you. You're going to have that one guy who's going to be playing, and they're going to have like heart failure or something, and then the industry is going to be in an uproar.
Yep.
It's just crazy, I don't know.
And then that's going to ruin the entire industry, not just VR, because then that game you can experience in VR or not VR, and it's just going to be the game that's smeared, really, not... and then people are going to question whether or not, people were questioning when GTA came out, oh, our game's causing people to kill people. And now people are going to be like, oh, our game's actually killing us. Like, it's going to be a mess.
Well, because I'm sure you guys have seen the YouTube footage of guys playing Oculus Rift or whatever, and their buddy scares them.
Yep.
And they genuinely like just drop to their knees shaking because I don't know if you guys have ever played any of these games, but the Oculus Rift, you can't see anything. You were sealed in, and the headphones are on, and you are in that world. And imagine someone scaring the crap out of you. Like, I don't know.
You don't know anything that's around you. You have the headphones on too. I went to PAX East, and that's where I got a lot of my VR exposure for the first time. That was this year, and I was playing VR, and I mean the expo hall is bumping. Like there's a lot of noise going on. You put those headphones on, you're in that world. Like you wouldn't know if someone was right behind you. Yeah. So I mean I agree with you on that. That's a little scary.
And I just, when I want to clear it up and say I have nothing against anyone who wants to do that stuff. I mean, that's totally, do your own thing, man. Do what you want to do. Me personally, I have no interest in it.
Well, at Best Buy, they have the buckets lined up next to it, just in case you do get
nice.
But
are you seriously?
Yes, they have buckets lined up at Best Buys here in America in case you get sick.
Wow.
And to be honest with you, I went to 2 different Best Buys because I was looking for other gaming stuff, but nobody was trying out the headset. Like, it just didn't appeal to the mass public. Nobody was interested.
Right.
That's weird, man. It's, crazy.
I do have a couple questions for you.
Yeah, please. Sure.
One, as a gamer and a big fan of gaming, what did you think of the movie Pixels? 2, how do you feel about the Killer Instinct reboot? And 3, any thoughts on Halo?
Oh, Jesus. How's a multi-part?
I never saw Pixels. Not really a huge Adam Sandler fan anymore. Hate to say it because I love Billy Madison and Happy Gilmore, but I've never seen it. Killer Instinct, the reboot, I think is fantastic. I love the game. I love how it's broken down into seasons. I think that concept is really cool. Halo is not the same without Bungie. I don't care what anyone says. 343 is a great company, but it's not Bungie. I'm a big fan of Halo. I love the lore. I love Chief and the Arbiter. Where the hell's the Arbiter, man? He was such a great character, but
he's in Killer Instinct now. That's where he's at.
Yeah, see, that doesn't cut it for me, man. Doesn't cut it for me. Again, I'm the dude who played Halo 2 that liked the Arbiter stuff. When everyone was like, "Oh, the Arbiter stuff's dumb," I like that.
Yep.
I love Halo.
Assassin, got anything?
Since you are a Bungie fan, do you like Destiny?
Yeah, I've played too much Destiny. I didn't play. I played up until the Taken King. I played a bit of the Taken King. I never did the raid. But I spent with Vanilla Destiny. We had a clan, and we kicked the crap out of I can't remember his name. Atheon. We beat him like multiple times. I do like it, but I find for a game that supposedly costs the most out of any game ever created, they recycle a lot of areas, and I was getting tired of running through old Russia, etc. So
yes.
I'm done with Destiny, but I'm a WoW player, so.
Are you a fan of like Bethesda stuff, like Skyrim, Elder Scrolls?
I can appreciate them. I'm more of a Fallout guy. I find me personally, the first-person hand-to-hand combat, I'm just not good at it. So in Skyrim, I had to be the archer. You're constantly backing up, shooting. But I love Fallout. Fallout's great.
Do you like 3 or 4 better?
3, absolutely. I think the worst thing they did was take the karma system out. That was my favorite thing. Because you could screw yourself over. You could kill an NPC that was, critical to the story and just brick your game. I thought that was brilliant. That was truly one of the first games that you could actually ruin. And they took it out of 4, and I thought that was a shame,
We're getting a lot of questions in the chat on what Jay's progress was by the end of the film, and I have a slide on that, but I'm deciding we're not going to ruin that. So you people need to go out and rent this, or buy it, or watch it on Amazon Video or something, because it's an awesome documentary. So
thanks, man.
We're not going to spoil it. I do have a slide on, but we're not going to spoil it. But the ending is excellent. So you'll definitely. You'll definitely enjoy the ending.
I'll give a clue to everyone out there. The ending has something to do with me blowing up the Death Star and the Millennium Falcon.
Pretty much, when it comes to collecting NES games, it is on that level. So,
now, besides collecting all the NES games, any other collections you have completed or near complete?
Game wise, no. To be honest, that's the first one that I've tried to get all of them in. I usually collect pieces that I've either heard good things about, enjoyed, or rarity. To be honest, I'm a sucker for rare games. I recently acquired Link Faces of Evil for CDI. I don't know if you guys
Ew.
obscure CDI
Yeah,
system.
that's really obscure. Yeah, no, I know
It is,
exactly
and
what that is.
the
But
game is absolutely terrible, but it is
yes,
such an amazing part of video game history that
oh,
is
that's for
something
sure.
that I've tracked down forever. So yeah.
How about that Super Mario CDI game or whatever that wasn't even complete? Have you ever tried that out, like the ROM of that or anything?
No, I've played Hotel Mario, which
Oh,
is
okay.
actually it's a decent game, but I haven't. Yeah, I saw James Rolfe did a video on that a while back. Yeah, but no, I
Yeah.
haven't tried that. No.
Another question that we're getting in the chat, a couple of people have asked this by now, so I want to get to it, is what do you think about the rumors of the Nintendo NX going back to cartridges? Because that rumor has come out recently, and while it doesn't make sense for a storage perspective, it may make sense for nostalgia's sake, potentially. So what do you think? Do you think that's a smart move or no?
Nostalgia's sake won't make Nintendo the money they need.
Mm-hmm.
When you're looking at it from that thing, if you're putting 8-bit Mario or anything, yes, that makes money. But to put games on a cart, I mean, Square passed up on putting Final Fantasy VII on the N64 because Nintendo was doing carts. It just doesn't make sense,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I don't think that rumor's true at all.
Even as you said it in the film, there's a story behind the cartridges, right? The story, what was it? It was a story, quote unquote, behind the cart. That's kind of like gone in modern gaming. And if you had a cartridge system again, maybe you'd get that back, right? You don't think that's good enough?
That was more of a metaphor speaking to where us going and acquiring each game, we knew where that game came from. Whereas if you're on eBay hitting buy it now, okay, that came from New York. Great, shows up 2 weeks later. Where we got, Bonk's Adventure, I can tell you exactly where we were, the time of day it was. That's what we meant by this.
Oh, okay.
Each cart, obviously because they're NES carts, but the story behind each game.
Right. Because that's kind of lost in gaming now. Like, even if you were speaking of, like, the wear and tear, like, the actual physical, like, ooh, this is, Super Mario Brothers 3, and it has, like, a pizza sauce stain on it, and I wonder what they were doing. Like, were they pulling an all-nighter and ordering Domino's or something like that? Like,
Yeah.
even that kind of stuff is gone because, like, you get a CD, and, you just wipe the back of the CD off, and there you go. So that kind of, like...
Yeah.
Story of collecting, even for... That's why I would never collect stuff like Xbox games, because, like... I mean, it's just there's no story behind it, I feel.
They're just a little bit more difficult to take care of, especially something like 360 that if you jolt the console, it rings the disc, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm with you there. Yeah.
What else? Something else in the chat. Clowns or Assassin, you got anything else while I find this in the chat?
I was gonna say, what do you think of Virtual Boy? And what do you think of
Jesus, man.
What do you think about Game Boy as well?
So I'm not a big portable guy. I have a Virtual Boy. I have a Game Boy, of course. Yeah, the Virtual Boy never really did it for me. I mean, that's no secret. I don't think there's many people that like the system. I think the games were great, and I would really like to see on the Wii U or whatever, a Virtual Boy collection disc. I think that'd be awesome. We don't need it in 3D. I'll just have the red monochrome. That would be cool. Game Boy, the green monochrome never did it for me. I thought Mario was so small. It was like a pinhead. And again, I had a Lynx, I had a Game Gear, I had all that stuff, but I was never a big portable gamer. So I appreciate the titles, and I've played the milestones on the systems, but not a huge fan of portable gaming. I like my big TV in front of me.
I remember going on family vacations as a kid, and like you said, the screen is so small on the Game Boy, and it's monochrome and the green background. My dad actually bought me the magnifying glass. You remember that?
God.
The
I do
attachment
remember that. Yes.
with the little light. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I played all the way with that.
You end up, you put the light on it, the magnifying glass, the speakers on the side, and before you know, you're holding like a Neo Geo controller.
Yes. Yes. Oh my gosh! You need a stand, a table to put it on and stuff. Oh my.
There's
God.
that great. I'm sure you guys have seen that little, cartoon that loops every 5 seconds. It's the kid looking at the Game Boy, and the next frame is like it's dark, then it's light, then it's dark, then it's light. You see, like he's driving, it's the street light going by.
Yes.
Very cool.
So you got a game coming out, right? That's kind of related to this film. Tell people about that.
Our buddy Joe Granado is making the game for us. Rob and I are writing it. It's based on Nintendo Quest. It's based on You Play Me, and again, everything's not finalized yet. We're still in the production phases, so it's basically me going out and collecting the games. We're gonna have dungeons. We're gonna have boss characters. We're gonna have NPCs. You're gonna have a party. The structure of the game is built off of Final Fantasy 1. So it's the turn-based RPG is what Rob and I chose because that's our favorite kind of genre.
Gotcha.
Working on it, we were originally planning on releasing it by the end of this year. I don't know if that's going to happen or not, but it is in the works and it'll be out very soon. So hey, we're going to be like Blizzard. It's going to be ready when we're done. How about that?
There you go. No dates. Ready when you're done.
No dates.
Awesome.
It's ready when it's good. Yeah. Hoping to have some beta testers too, so we'll let you guys know for sure.
Oh, definitely.
We're
Man.
in on
I'd love
that.
to play that.
Yeah.
I'm hoping for a boss battle against JD.
I think you might see that. I think that's safe to say.
JD Low, hopefully. Boss
At
battle.
any point, would we be able to pull out like a lightsaber?
Oh, 100%.
All right, awesome.
100%. We were discussing the armor sets, and the first thing I said is we have to call it, a laser sword. You can't call it a lightsaber.
Of course, yeah.
It's the first thing. I'm like, man, I gotta have. Let me ask you guys this. I just want to go one by one. I'm not taking over the show. I just want to know, Inferno. If you could have any colored lightsaber blade, what would you pick?
Oh, definitely green.
Green. You'd be the Guardian. Okay, Assassin. What would you pick?
Red.
Sith Lord and
Sick
clowns.
Blue.
I'm with you, mate. I'd have blue. Yeah, Luke all the way. The Skywalker saber. Anyway, sorry. Continue.
Assassin, you'd definitely be JD in this game. You'd be JD Low. You'd be the enemy. Oh man. Hold on. People are asking in the chat. You guys have a Kickstarter. What platforms is this game gonna come in?
There will be a Kickstarter for the Nintendo Quest game. It will be first and foremost an NES cartridge. It will play on Nintendo Entertainment System. That's as far as we've gone for now. So you will need a Nintendo or at least what's it called, Retrocon?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, one of those. Yeah. It's supposed to represent the film, so it'd be a cart that will play on your NES.
Awesome.
That is really cool.
Yeah.
What else? I think that's all the questions I have. We've gone like an hour and 7 minutes, a little more than the 45 I told you, Jay. Sorry about that.
That's okay. I'm all about you guys tonight. So.
All right, awesome.
Jay, I do have an additional question.
Oh yeah, please.
While you're out there collecting, any rare Nintendo controllers that you came across?
Controllers.
Because the Famicom had like licensed controllers, right? Like they had like Mario controllers and Kirby, I think. I'm not sure.
I don't know about that, to be honest with you. Rare controllers, man, not off the top of my head. We did see a bunch of really cool like old Mario like cabinets and fixtures and old Nintendo signs that used to be in like Walmarts and stuff like that. Like the display cabinets. Like Todd Curtis has a wonderful World of Nintendo, and it's like in pristine shape that he has all his games on. We saw a lot of stuff like that, but controllers, not off the top of my head. We saw a bunch of Play Choice 10s.
Mm-hmm.
Those are pretty sweet.
There's a guy at PAX East who had a Kickstarter, and I can't believe I don't remember the name. It's like I think it was called like Retro Rampage or something like that. And they made the NES carts on 3D printers, and they were selling them like that for their game.
Retro City Rampage?
No. Oh my god. I'll look it up as we're talking. No, it wasn't Retro City Rampage. It wasn't called Retro Rampage then either. I can't remember it exactly.
Have you collected any like display models with the consoles and little TVs and controllers?
Interactive units. I do not have any. I have a lot of Nintendo merchandise. You can't see, but to my left here, to your right, I do have a Choplifter arcade cabinet.
Oh,
Which
nice.
by Sega. I always wanted an arcade game, and I just happened to find someone in the city who sold it to me for like $200. So,
Wow, cheap.
yeah, very cheap. I want first and foremost Donkey Kong. It's my favorite arcade game, and I do want a Street Fighter 2 cab at some point, preferably Championship Turbo. But that's in the future.
What was I gonna ask? So if you were to get more deeper into the gaming scene and like you were to collect every Genesis game and every PlayStation game, would you look in Canada first, or would you go to the US after having this experience?
Actually, to be completely honest with you guys, the U.S. was much kinder.
Really?
Everyone was a lot more friendly in the U.S., which, I mean, Canada has a reputation for being friendly. I'm not saying it's not, but just our experience, the U.S. was great. Yeah, I would head to the States for sure, man. I'm a big sucker for Vegas, which is where Rob lives. I think it's one one of the best places I've ever been. I love the desert and all that. So yeah, we definitely hit the States. But again, it's finding that, what can you put on the same level as NES to make a sequel? Worthy of a sequel, do you know what I mean? Like Genesis, no. Super Nintendo, no. What do you do?
Yeah, I know you're not a portable gamer, but I mean the original Game Boy.
Original Game Boy, yeah.
Well, I mean, the Sega Master System had a little bit of charm to it. The Alex Kidd stuff, and I mean, it had a charm.
But are the titles as impactful as the NES? I would say, no.
Yeah,
and that's the thing. If you're gonna release this thing in a theater kind of setting, it's tough to trump the NES. I don't know. We're thinking bigger though, so we're still in the writing stages.
Cool. All right, I think everything I've written down for questions, I think we pretty much got to. Clowns or Assassin, anything else before we get out of here?
Oh, while we're on the air, Jay, can you talk a little bit about like your podcast and tell our listeners
please.
What it's about?
Podbean.com is where you find all my work. We do a video game podcast called Gamercast with Glenn, Rob, and Jay. It's about all things video games, current, past, anything. Again, we've all collected from when we were kids to now, and I've kept up to date with everything, so let's check it out. A Galaxy Far, Far Away is my Facebook page, and also my Star Wars podcast. That's my number one passion is Star Wars, so check it out, guys, and leave feedback. Always appreciated.
I think you have a number one super fan right here, ZPCI Assassin.
Yeah, I was just gonna
say he's our biggest Star Wars fan.
I was just gonna say after we end the broadcast, you're gonna have to let him know like the link and everything for that. So
Assassin, definitely add me on Facebook. We can chat, and I'll get you on the podcast if you want to talk some Star Wars.
Oh, he definitely wants to talk Star Wars. He's so up and down about Battlefront because we were so excited for Battlefront. We played Battlefront, and then it ended up being not so good. And then he doesn't want to hate it because it's Star Wars. And then he goes back to it, and he's like, oh, this is actually good. It's actually good. And then he convinces himself, no, it's not good. And it's funny.
Yeah, I wrestled with the same thing as well because you want to love it because Battlefront 2 is so damn good.
Oh yeah.
And they stripped out everything from it. I understand it's a different development team and such, but still, when you had something so good and then 10 years later you get this and it's not quite as good, but you want it to be as good, it's tough. Yeah.
All right, so I think unless Clowns, you got one more thing or no?
I was just gonna say when I watched the documentary, I had told Assassin there was I remember seeing something like R2D2. Was that like a life-size replica that was in the room, or was that like a model? I don't know what I was looking at.
I have life-size replicas of Master Yoda, Darth Maul, and Jar Jar. The R2D2 is a beer cooler from the 70s.
Oh, wow.
That I acquired from my buddy's dad. It's a real cooler, but no, it's just a cooler. I have a friend, my friend Steve actually, who cosplays with us, he has a replica R2D2 that he brings to the shows and stuff. So I don't really have one, but I know a guy who has one. So there you go.
And the last question I could think of is, what shows do you guys go to? Like any trade shows or any events that are like really popular that you guys go to?
The last one we went to in October, of course, was the Portland Retro Gaming Expo, which was absolutely fantastic. This year, again, it's a little quiet. Rob was just down at E3 shooting stuff for his next documentary, which is called Box Art. And you guys, if you don't know what it is, you got to check it out. It's about the history of art on the box of video games. It's something that's never been touched before.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the Portland Retro Gaming Expo was the last one we went to. We try and hit everything we can. Again, this year for me personally, it's a little bit different. I've just, kind of backed off just a little tad. But we're ramping up to get the game going out. So we'll be hitting all these cons again and touring the game.
Cool. So look out for that stuff. Look out for Jay on all of his different, social networks. We've got below his face here on the podcast, we've got his Twitter, his personal Twitter, and the Twitter for the Nintendo Quest. So go follow both of those. Follow his Facebook that he mentioned earlier. Check out those podcasts. And yeah, so we really appreciate having you on, Jay. It was an awesome interview, and hope to game with you in the future and hear more about where this Nintendo Quest thing is going. And when the game comes out, we'll definitely have to have you on again for sure.
Absolutely. I want to say you guys have a great show and you're killer, so thanks for having me.
Absolutely, yeah. Thank you guys. And so everyone in the chat tonight, you guys are amazing. Thank you. If you're not watching live, definitely still leave your comments below. We check those. And hit us up on Twitter, 4GWQ Podcast. That's probably the best way to get in touch with all of us collectively. And if you have any other questions for Jay, we can relay those or, whatnot. So, and we just lost Assassin for some reason. So, yeah, thank you guys for coming out this evening. And we'll see you guys in the next episode. Peace out.